Hey, family.
Hey, guys.
We know we're coming to you earlier.
Yes,
than
we had to come in earlier than we had anticipated. We apologize for that. As Dr. Marcus has got to get on a plane, and I did not even consider that when we were talking earlier today. But we want to jump right into it. We had some questions that did come in, and so we want to speak to those questions. So Pastor Jennifer's going to read them, and then we're going to discuss. But we love you. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching. All right, so question number 1 is, when in a relationship with someone and their words don't line up with their actions, how much is too much to accept? When your heart is believing that God is going to do a great thing in this person's life, but in the natural, you don't see it, and you're talking about marriage in the future. And we talked yesterday about this. You had such a good insight. Yes, good insight on it.
Well, I believe that, almost to make it simple, I believe that you've got to create a balance or a ratio, in between how much time do you put in between a person's word and their action. Some things take time for a person to work out of their character, but how much do you allot for it? So it's the difference between a job. They know that life happens and people will be late. That's why you have a grace period. So I think that it's a grace period that says, communicate your needs. Here is how long we have.
Right.
It is never wrong to ask for what you need, because I think that no experience is allowed with relationships. I say, just because you are a manager for McDonald's doesn't qualify you to be CEO of Apple.
Right.
So it's the same thing. You have to communicate what exactly you believe and expect, and look for it and examine it. So I would say keep a dating journal, which is one of the things I'm doing as well, because emotionally you'll in your mind qualify, discredit what you saw with your eyes.
That's good.
Yeah.
So if you can go back and read what you wrote down, what a person said and dated, you can logically look and say, oh man, you can inform yourself of a lot of stuff you're overlooking. So I would say that. Look at the potential, write it down, and communicate to that person and give them a timeline. Hey, we really should be working towards blank. This is what I'm looking to see, and hear from them what they expect too.
Exactly. And I think boundaries are helpful too in relationships. I mean, that's healthy. That's okay. And to still have expectation of a person to grow and change. There's our waiter. Hey, waiter. But to still have expectation for a person and hope that they're going to change.
No, absolutely. And then you also have to take the time to clearly articulate where you are in the relationship. Because a relationship is twofold. One person can think they're one place, and another person can think that they're another place, and them functioning and really be dysfunctional.
So true.
And so you've got to clearly communicate where you are in this relationship, making sure as you think about marriage that they are thinking about marriage, and that's the end game for them as well. But on top of all of that, clearly hearing God, clearly discerning whether this person is for you or not, and then trusting God to handle those things in your life.
Exactly. All right, so moving on, number 2, my husband and I have 2 boys that are growing up and will eventually move out. How do you start, or what are some things we can do to build a stronger relationship for when it is just the 2 of us?
Empty nest syndrome.
Yes, we're not there yet, but I can only imagine.
Yeah, I can only imagine
how hard that will be.
The distress that is connected there. And what's interesting is there's an interesting fact that states that the highest divorce rate is in the first year of marriage and the 27th year of marriage.
Oh, wow.
And one of the reasons is because of this right here, because the kids are gone, the empty nest has settled in, and there has been a disconnect that has grown between mom and dad over child rearing years. And so for us, what we have seen, what we have read, what we have witnessed with our own families is something that we get individuals to do from day one of their relationship, and that's this. You can't ever stop doing what got you together once you're together. Too often we get married and we act like, oh, well, all the work's done. Now we can just be whatever and stop working on our relationship. Stop investing within the relationship. And so the dating, the love letters, the little times off,
intentional
the
date
cute little
nights.
things. Absolutely.
You've got to plan those things. I know for us, we're so busy that we have to plan date nights. We're going to go out to dinner on this night. And so being intentional with that kind of stuff.
But with where the question is at the moment, what I would start doing right now is I would start entertaining that conversation between mom and dad, husband and wife, communicating, hey, here we are. We don't want to lose us in the midst of being parents, being mom and dad and so forth. And so really start analyzing, spend some time with individuals who have already gone through this. They are already on the other side. They can give you some wisdom, some counsel. They can also tell you some things that don't work. That's many times just as good as hearing things that do work. But invest time. Pastor Jennifer and I, when we were preparing to have children, because most of you know our testimony, it was a struggle to have kids. We waited, not intentionally, but we tried for a long time before we were able to have Jada. And so what we started doing is, while we were in the preparation process, waiting for children, we were very intentional with talking to other parents, with watching
doing
them.
our homework.
We'd be out in the general public and we would see an altercation between kids that were acting like they were filled with the devil, and how mom handled it and how dad handled it.
How would you handle
and
that?
we would dialogue on that.
Yeah.
And so do that same thing. Do your homework. Start talking with one another. Relearn one another during this time, because you might have started out in your relationship loving this one thing, and now that's not so much important anymore, and things have changed, and now you've got to love something else, or you are loving something else now. And so the biggest thing to all that we're saying is communication. That is the bedrock for relationships.
And just lastly, too, begin now to make it a matter of prayer.
Absolutely.
I would say,
you got to be intentional.
To pray now, God, when this happens, I'm asking that it's a smooth transition for my husband and I.
Absolutely.
And that we feel your peace and your anointing, and our love is just going to become stronger.
Because we can't forget, it is the plan and the purpose of God for our kids to grow up and leave home.
Exactly.
That's the way it's supposed to be. Now, as parents, we love our kids. We want them around as often as they can be around. But that is the plan of God. So God prepared you for this day. You just have to wrap yourself up. Did you want to speak to that at all?
I can't speak to that. I can speak to the kid that was ready to go.
Right. You're ready to get out of the house.
Absolutely.
Wow. Oh, we've got some people coming through.
I'm learning, so I think this is great, because even while I'm sitting here, I'm still learning as well. So I think that's perfect.
Yes, awesome. All right, question number 3 was, how would you recommend meeting new people while juggling a full-time career, commitment to ministry, and minimal exposure to people your age in person without going the sketchy online dating route?
Say no to Tinder, hashtag.
This is a good question, you know. Mark,
come on, Mark. Talk to us.
I'll keep reiterating this all day. This has been my bedrock, but it's true. I think that the same thing that you need to be great in dating, you need to be great in life. So if you can't have a working relationship with yourself, nothing allows you to be exclusive.
Right.
The moment you get exclusive with one thing, let's say if you're exclusive with your business, let's do that. The moment you get exclusive with your business, you get clients. Then you get exclusive with clients and you realize you got to do taxes. You get exclusive with taxes, you realize you hire employees. The same thing happens in relationships. So you have to learn now that you date certain things at certain times.
Right.
So it's not that you ever take away from them. You say you stop doing ministry, stop doing this, stop doing that. But it's saying for this period of my life, and I'll use myself as an example, I'm putting out 4 books this year.
Wow.
I know that I'm going to exclusively date the book publishing process for 2 months.
Right.
As soon as that's done, I'm right back to that information. But simultaneously, I'm going to still be dating it, but not exclusively.
Right.
And in the interim, I'm communicating to people around me, hey, here's the space that I need, and here's how you can help me, so this doesn't get dropped. So it's like you as parents, you don't leave your child unattended, you leave them in the care of someone else.
Yeah.
So you can date one another. And I think it's the same. God has us in seed form.
Yeah.
If I send that into your life, if now you don't have time with just you and these activities, where is the space that I can place this person? And if the person is sent from God, will their needs be met, or will they only come and feel a desire for you? Right. So I think that it has to be that. I'm preaching to the choir because I'm trying now.
Right. Because you're so busy. I mean, you're like, finding the time.
Exactly.
Well, you mentioned, I like how you said it. You said when you start looking for a particular car, then all of a sudden you start seeing that car.
Yes.
Talk about
that. It's been extremely intentional about, like the greatest example, when you purchase a car, you really think that everybody bought that car. Because it's not being narcissistic, it's bought into your view. It becomes a part of your world, so you recognize it. It's not that it wasn't there, you just finally recognize it. It's the same thing. So I always tell people in any level of life, wherever you see yourself, visit what you're not. Be around it as much as possible. Where do you see you and the person dating when you finally find that person? Go visit that environment.
Right.
you might run into them where you see yourself dating them. So I think it's that creating space, being extremely intentional in terms of not just what you write down.
Right.
I'll make this statement. I believe that where faith really is exemplified, it is when I close the gap between what I believe and what I do.
Yeah.
That's when faith is highlighted.
Yeah.
So the further the distance between what I believe and the action I take shows me I have doubt.
Yeah.
Right.
The closer the distance between what I believe and what I take action to do shows me how much I believe. So I think the intentionality I'm talking about is what is the current action that I'm taking to meet God halfway, so to speak.
Yeah.
Adam did not need God to introduce Eve. He needed a revelation of a piece of himself. The intentional act of I'm intentional and working, and Adam might not have believed he had space, but do I have the wisdom to have a revelation of can I perceive even in my day-to-day work?
Wow.
In day-to-day work, name the animals. Okay, cool. That's this, that's that.
Right.
See and name function. But when I see a part of myself, can I recognize it? And that's the thing. If I'm being intentional about who I am. I'm dating me. I'm knowing, okay, Marcus, you're mouthy. I'm talking, whoever answered, I'm talking to myself and talking to you. Right? This is therapy. But I'm being intentional even now to say, have I made room? Will I make a person uncomfortable like they're intruding when they come into my life? And I think now I will.
Right.
So I'm trying to make adjustments and say, I'm so regimented. I'm up at 6:30, 6:45. I don't talk on the phone till after 9.
Yeah.
I've got all these pieces. So it's saying, okay, I've got to have some wiggle room. And I ask you, will God understand that I cut my time from 2 hours to 30 minutes?
Right.
So it's letting myself off the hook.
So really you got to begin to ask yourself, am I in a place where my life, is open for me to meet that person?
Absolutely. And who has the move? Like, if you're talking about the seat of your heart is the seat of your attention. So what is currently getting your attention at the time? And if a new person gets your attention, is there room for God?
Yeah.
God will not, he does present to us things that rival him, but it highlights the level of our devotion to him.
Yeah.
But it's for us to know, will it rival him? Will I be so consumed when now I shift completely and give God no time in the morning?
Right. It's true. It's a juggle.
It's a massive balance.
It is.
And so that's the reason why above your own desires and all the different things that you're focused on, you've got to be clear in what he's saying to you. You got to know. I was the world's worst at this because I hated being single. I lived my life as a child. Even when I was just a kid, I wanted to be married, and so it was a massive struggle for me. I found in one of our other questions, I'm gonna hit this a little bit deeper, but unfortunately I started to find my identity in my desire to be in a relationship.
Wow. And
so it broke down the acquisition of my identity as a single person, and I needed that to marry her. And so hearing God, clearly discerning the times and the seasons, and then moving. But moving, like I said this morning during service, when such a powerful move, moving with the discernment of the Spirit so that when God interrupts your day, when he interrupts your schedule, your agenda, that you are willing to move with his movement, because you never know what will happen. God sent a prophet to tell me to break up with a girlfriend that I was with, who was my fiance at the time, in the middle of a church service. Y'all all heard me talk about it. And it rocked my world. Had he not been obedient to God and spoke that word to me, there's a very strong possibility I would have married that lady, and I would never know her, and I would never have Jada, and I wouldn't be in any of your lives.
Wow.
And so it requires that obedience. He had to be obedient to God, and then I had to be obedient to listen to God and know that that was God speaking to me to start this chain of events that led to me meeting her. That was in April. In July, I met her. Had I not listened in that April, when July rolled around, I would have not paid attention to her because I'm a very loyal person. And so I would have never paid, even though she's beautiful, I would have never paid attention to her because my radar was set on this other situation. So I know that it might sound like a cop-out, but it's the truth. You have to hear God. You have to trust God. And you got to give it to God.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Can I make one practical thing I would say?
Yeah.
Practice. It doesn't hurt. It's not taking advantage of anyone. I think that sometimes, like you said, with the confidence piece, It's like a good football, basketball team. They go through a drought.
Yeah.
They typically will bring in an outside person to scrimmage them to simulate what it would be like. And I think that simulating and highlighting, it could be someone that you, if you went the dating route, just do it via communication. Don't meet up with the person.
Right.
Just to see, am I comfortable holding a text messaging conversation?
Right. True.
I know that might sound weird, sound bad,
yes.
but those are certain elements that we don't think about, like that we could be in essence running someone off by our lack of communication or over communication. Every time I message you, you've let me know it's okay to message you.
Right.
Imagine with our relationship, if every time I contacted you, I apologize.
Right.
Hey, I'm so sorry to reach out to you, man. I know you're busy, man.
Yeah.
I don't realize the reason the relationship isn't developing is because I am not allowing it to develop.
Right.
So I think by testing, practicing, so to speak, with communication, it helps because it highlights and shows you and gets you comfortable with when the person comes around to be able to communicate.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I want us to address the sketchy online dating. I don't think all of them are sketchy. I don't know. I'm asking. I really don't know because I can't imagine dating in 2019. You know, where and how do you meet good, strong believers that believe the same way as you?
You know, I don't think that there's necessarily a problem. I think that whatever site that you go to, you need to make sure that it's a good, solid, reputable site. I want to even say that there's even some faith-based sites that are out there. I don't know anything about them. Of course, I've not been on that scene in 24
Almost 24
years.
years.
And so, you know, that I don't believe that God would not use that. I'm not even going to say that. I believe that God can and will use that. But the instigator behind all of this has got to be the voice of the Father.
Right.
What is the voice of the Father saying to you right now at this point in time in your life? That might be something that you want, but you might not be ready for it.
Right.
And so hearing God, God, and believe me, I'm at the top of the list for an individual who wanted and wants to still be married.
And I know we could probably spend a whole lot more time on this question. It's a good question because this person's talking about juggling a lot of things. But I think you mentioned it, Marcus, that we have time for what we want to have time for. So realizing that you make time for what you want to make time.
Well, you said yesterday, because I typed it out because I liked it. In the absence of priority, everything is priority.
Oh yeah.
And so there has to be the true priorities that are clearly laid out.
Yep. All right. Question number 4. This is a really good question. It's
a hard question.
It is a hard question. Are we still bound by our vows in sickness and in health if our spouse, if our spouse
has a life-altering situation, Alzheimer's, dementia, a brain injury, or something that takes them from not being them anymore?
Do we still have to?
Are we still bound to that?
Because, like, say your spouse is in the nursing home and they're not in their right mind, they don't know you anymore. Right. Wow. Are you still bound by your vows? Which is a great question.
That's a great question.
It is a great question.
I'm happy I don't have to answer that.
Well.
We've got more people.
We're in a restaurant, just so that y'all know that. I've got 2 scriptures that I want to give to you in regard to this. Numbers 32 says, if a man vows a vow to the Lord or swears an oath to bind himself by a pledge, he shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. Number 1. Number 2, Psalm 15:4. He who keeps an oath, even when it hurts and does not change their mind, is a blessed individual. And so that is the key, because your vows, were to one another, but they were to God. You made a commitment to God, to this other person. And so in a hellacious circumstance such as that, I can only imagine the heartache. I can only imagine the pain. But you have to invest yourself in that covenant. You have to invest yourself in that oath that you made to care for that person, even in their most dire straits, if you would. A person that doesn't know you. Talk about your aunt with your uncle.
Absolutely. I was trying to mark down the scriptures you mentioned.
I'll give you my notes.
Oh, perfect. My aunt and uncle, 2 of them actually. My aunt and uncle were together all their life, just about. My uncle, for almost 20 years until he passed away, could not sleep in the bed with my aunt. He couldn't lay down. If he did, he would end up having a seizure. He couldn't drive. He couldn't work. So for 20 plus years, she put financially, emotionally, sexually, on down the line, none of those were components. So he might have wanted affection, might have wanted to cuddle. It would be dangerous to do so. She was with him until the day he died. Literally to the day he died. would find ways to still make him feel like a man, would ask him questions. Hey, baby, what do you think about this? And I would watch it and say, wow. And it hit me when I was talking with a group of friends. I said, man, I don't think we date thinking about the person that you're with. I'm 34. If I get married this year, will be with me when I lose my normal. If I outlive my brothers and sisters, they will have to see me turn into another person losing them. They will watch me lose my mother and father and have to grapple with that. I won't be the same person anymore, all while still being a father and them not making me look bad to my kids. So to watch that, and then I watched my other aunt, my uncle had cancer, 8 years, 10 years, battling on and off, lost his functions, and I mean, it was a time where she could have left because of things that had happened in the past when he was healthy, how things were bad. Was with him until he took his last breath. Literally his last breath, to where she actually had to help him take a bowel movement.
Yeah.
Wow. That's what, in my mind, I think about the small stuff of you didn't ruin my favorite food. In comparison to that,
right?
That's when love is displayed
exactly.
at its finest, when it can receive nothing in return but love.
Wow. Wow.
Which is the power of covenant. And unfortunately, as we have discussed umpteen times, our present culture is disconnected from covenant on a very, very high level. It is something that is completely not, it's an old-fashioned word anymore.
Right.
But it's the bedrock of our relationship with one another. And so we cannot forget the covenant vows that we took one with another when we were in our late teens, early 20s, or whenever that was, when we're in our 70s and 80s, and that person isn't the same person that they used to be.
Right, because the world knows the word contract, but the kingdom understands the word covenant. And it's a real thing, and it's strong. And
I would say this, though, this particular question is why having a strong support system, especially within a church, within a small group, connecting yourself, you've got to have that, because you need that interaction. When we're talking about people of this age, many times their families, parents, and so forth are already deceased. So having a strong support system, I can't think of a better one than church, but that's just my opinion. But sincerely, having that support system is something that would be paramount for that person's peace of mind.
All right, question number 5 is, I'm courting a girl. We spend time with each other's families, but it's hard to balance the two. And also, what do we do about wanting to actually have our time together without neglecting the people that we are with, that are with us, to still be intimate in a way? For me, when I read this question, initially, my first thought was, too much alone time might not be wisdom, you know?
Right.
You know, if this is a person you really care about, then you might want to jump into things that, you know, you don't have a license to jump into. But so I think, you know, being around friends and being around family will help keep you pure if you're picking up what I'm laying down.
Well, but obviously I cued in on the opening phrase, I'm courting a girl. And so that's terminology that isn't
kingdom terminology.
Well, it is kingdom terminology, but it's not normal to our culture. So if we are talking on the same level, and so I wrote this down because there's a book in my library. There's a book called Choosing God's Best by Dr. Don Roniker, and it's all about the courtship process. And so if you are following Dr. Roniker's model of courtship, you know within that framework that there is that time where you have clearly determined this person is someone I'm going to marry. And so you start to then invest yourself into those alone times, obviously wisdom-based, because we're not wanting to get too far ahead of ourselves, but invest yourself in that courtship process by saying, yes, this person is for me. They confess that, yes, that you are for them. You move forward in that, and then you start to add to your timeline, your courtship timeline, those alone moments, but being accountable. Being accountable with your accountability couple. That's something else that's in that model as well. And so all of those things have got to be in place. And if you know that that person is God's will for your life, and they reciprocate that, then you're going to have to take those moments where you do spend alone together, talking about things that you can't necessarily talk about in front of others, and working out your communication skills that then take you into your marriage. It's a healthy process, but you have to properly discern where you are in that process and what God is saying about it as you navigate it. Hope that makes sense.
Absolutely.
You want to speak to that one at all?
I think you nailed it. I'm being for real, because I'm a student as well. So I'm listening and jotting down notes mentally. It is wisdom. And it sounds like the person trying to find balance between the two. I think it's important, even in those scenarios, to talk through how both people feel. Do you feel like we're spending too much time around family?
That's good.
Because it could very well happen with something else. I think anytime you have an opportunity when you're dating someone to talk about something objectively, it's always a good thing. Like you all said, you see a family, how would you handle that? I think it's great to be proactive about conversations, watch movies, shows, and what would you think if this happened?
Right.
Hey, if we were out and my ex came up, how would you want me to handle that? I think those are very, very great conversations to have and be very proactive so you're not responding from an emotional space.
Exactly.
But now you can circle back around and know how that person wanted you to manage and handle those things. So this is a prime example because family is always going to pull on you. Hey, come over here Sunday, and you tell the person, hey, we're going over there Sunday, and they plan for y'all to do something else.
Right.
You know, so figuring out what that balance is.
Yes, and starting good, healthy communication ASAP is
paramount.
So important.
Paramount.
Yes.
But I mean, it keeps circling back down to that in all spaces: communication.
Absolutely.
Yes. All right, here we go. I think this is our final question. There's a big emphasis on team in church culture. Being that I'm single as a slice of cheese. But,
me too. We're praying with you.
Being that I'm single as a slice of cheese, but feel a right now call to ministry, how does that fit into the couple's format of ministry? Wow.
Whew.
So do you feel ostracized? I mean, because you are single and you're in ministry.
Yes.
Do you wrestle at all with, there's something missing here? I'm not right. Okay.
I'm a different type of guy. Okay. But I don't wrestle with it. But I'll go back to, I was telling Pastor Dave, someone asked me that. It came up and was like, I love your ministry, blah, blah, blah. You know, I heard him mention about you moving closer into ministry, pastoring, etc. So how are you going to do that if you don't have a wife? Was their exact statement.
Are you serious? Like you aren't good enough to...
And basically said that, you know, that I couldn't until I had a wife. So I asked him, I said, well, let me ask you a favor. How would you define love? Like, what is love? Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not boast. They quoted 1 Corinthians.
Right.
I said, well, the person who wrote that wasn't married.
Come on now. Right.
I said, there's no scripture, for the most part, in the New Testament that you can frame around love or marriage or even divorce that did not come through Jesus. That was not so, and Paul nor Jesus was not married.
Exactly.
So I said, if that is the prerequisite, then I mean, none of us are qualified. I do believe, though, that some things happen beforehand.
Yeah.
I do believe that sometimes things happen along the way. That as a result of your obedience to God, it comes. That might be my scenario.
Okay.
As a result of my obedience and commitment to pastoring his church, he says, pastoring his bride, he says my bride.
Right.
I do also believe that when God calls you, he wires into it every part of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He brings your personality, your character, your ups, your downs, your highs, your lows.
Yeah.
And it could be something that he is teaching you in the process of your ministry that will help you in the process of your marriage ministry.
Right.
I know for a fact that I've seen certain things now. Had I gotten married years before when I was going to pastor, I would have been the worst husband ever. Because I didn't know my identity, I didn't know who I was, I didn't respect the value of my voice. So I needed advice on stuff that I should have just knew the answer to. I couldn't lead a woman there. Now I'm getting more comfortable in my voice. I'm getting more comfortable with leading, with making steps and strides.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's just financial. I think that we have, this is the best statement I can say, we have one emotional account and we have to then pay for everything in our lives. Your heart doesn't know whether friendship breaks your heart or family member breaks your heart.
Come on.
It filters to the same place to love someone.
Yeah.
So in the process of the whole ministry aspect, it's bringing the sum total of who you are and what Christ has done in your life. So the more I would say in the season of singleness, I'm receiving God's love to such a degree that I can express it to myself, and it's known as self-love.
Right.
Yeah.
And as a result of my self-love, I can express it to someone else because that person might need more than what I couldn't have given them before because I needed so much.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
So I'll be prayerful and mindful of, am I in the season that I'm storing up God's love to build up my self-love again?
Come on. Right.
So when the person comes, I can extend from my self-love a period of time that they need more than what I need for myself, that it wouldn't be equal or even.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where my mind is.
Yeah.
I would say you're not held back to not be able to do ministry. I think
Go
that's
for it.
crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
God knew it when he called you.
Yeah.
Your call was not based on the basis. I don't think he would limit your calling to any person. Does a person help you in your calling? Yes. But I think we can't believe in the Bible nor believe in church or ministry and not believe that we should express what that relationship looks like with the wife. So you should desire it. You should desire to have that because it's the best expression. I want you all, the way you piggyback on each other without even trying or thinking is the way our life should be with Christ. Right. That we express him whether he's there or in his absence. So I think it shows better what that looks like.
Well, no, I definitely believe that. One of the things that I did want to address with this question is we've got to invest ourselves in the concept of team, not exclusively couple. Everything that God does, he uses teams to do it.
But that doesn't necessarily mean
husband and wife. Now, obviously, we are not normal, unfortunately, within the ministry world. There are some husband and wife teams that are out there. There's several, there are many, but by and large, it's not the norm.
Yeah.
And so we are a rare breed. So we then therefore attract a large couple base because of who we are. But we've also got individuals that are singles that serve on our staff. Now, is that the elephant in the room that they are single and that we are married? And that, it is something that they have to talk through, that we've got to communicate about. But they will also be able to tell you that we all function as a team. Although they don't bring a spouse to the table, that doesn't mean they don't bring value to the table.
Right.
The spouse does not determine their value. That's just one more person. Their value is completely and totally understood. Like right now, I'm looking at Chelsea. She's beside the camera right now. And I think about her automatically because she brings great value to the table, even though she's presently not married. My thing to this person is don't let anything hold you back from being all that God divinely designed for you to be, because I myself disqualified myself because I wasn't married, so I held back. What that holding back was, I said, I'm not married. When I get married, I'll be a part of this. The truth behind that was I was insecure. I was insecure in who I was, and I wanted a spouse to help compensate for that. And so I hid behind that and it was really insecurity. So I really want to encourage you, don't allow that to happen in your life. Be who God's divinely designed for you to be and get active. Be participatory in ministry regardless, because what I believe is that when you do that, because I was full-time in ministry as a single. Pastor Jennifer was not my wife at the time. I was not married. I was functioning as a youth pastor, as a praise and worship leader, as a single man. I did not have a wife. And I was doing all of those things. Now, what was interesting, though, is when she did, this is a whole other question then, when she came into my life, I had to then learn how to make room for her voice, as he mentioned earlier. I'd never done it before. So it was new for me. So we fought a lot because she's a strong-willed individual, and I thank God for that. But the truth of the matter is that was a dynamic. So I was in full-time ministry as a single man. And so you can do it as a single woman or a single man, whichever is applicable for you. You can do it. You just got to do it.
Yeah. Wow. And let's not forget, too, in Ephesians 4 and Ephesians 5, Paul really hits hard on marriages and being single, and to me, he really conveys the heart that being single is a calling, being married is a calling.
Yes.
So, and I'm not saying whoever wrote this that you're called to be single. I'm just saying be sensitive though to the fact that there are people that is their calling to be single, and God still wants to use them.
But I will say there is a qualifier to that. Paul had no desire for it. He writes it in Scripture. He says, I don't burn like others do. I don't have that desire. If you already have a desire,
then that lets you know
to have a husband, to have a wife, and of course you're a woman who wants a man and you're a man who wants a woman.
Let's get the order right.
Maybe we should qualify that. With that statement, if you have that desire, that's a God desire. That's a God call. You understand that. And so pursue it. But again, going back to the other question that was given earlier, pursue it by the inspiration of the Spirit, not your lust.
Exactly.
And I pointed down, and that was just completely unconscious on my part to do that. But well,
Yes, it's a great day.
I just love this.
I hope, did you want to speak to that anymore?
No. But I want to encourage you to read Ephesians 4 and Ephesians 5. We're probably going to jump into that this coming Sunday a little bit deeper. We're going to jump into the word covenant a little bit deeper.
Deep into covenant.
You know, we're going to jump into 3 things that you need to cultivate in your family, whether you're married or not. These are 3 great things to cultivate. We're going to talk about that this Sunday.
I did want to say this because I mentioned it in question number 5, and that's Dr. Don Roniker's book, Choosing God's Best. If you are a single and you do want to be married, it's a great resource. It's completely not culturally relevant. It is completely against our present culture. It will mess you up as far as that's concerned.
Because don't they say in the book something about, you know, really being so pure with the person you're supposed to marry that when you make it to the altar and the minister says
you may now kiss the bride,
that is
that's your first kiss. So I mean that's how deep it gets.
Our culture.
Well, me and you both.
Our culture doesn't know anything about that.
But I would highly recommend that book for you to read and for you to add to your library and begin to really pray over that. We're so thankful for these questions. We hope that this has been helpful.
Yes.
I really enjoyed this.
Yes,
we'll do this.
Marcus,
we'll do this more
us.
often in Jesus' name.
We love you guys.
But we bless you guys. Thank you for being with us. We'll see you on Wednesday.